Ladies and gentlemen, Old Fart Rants wants you to know that Black Lives Matter. They really matter to him. Now, not the millions and millions of black lives that are exterminated in abortion clinics. Those lives don't matter. Not the millions of black children growing up without a dad at all. It's not that there was a divorce, daddy was never around. Those black kids don't matter. Not the black gangbangers executing and murdering other black gangbangers most of the time in large, decaying Democrat cities. Those don't matter. There were 39,144 black-on-black homicides from 2004 to 2018, single victim, single offender homicides according to the FBI, from 2004 to 2018. Those black lives don't matter. What does matter, though, is the rare occasion where a black man is murdered, like George Floyd, by police. I've seen a lot of progressives do that. I remember, as a quick example, Bristol Palin was... The progressives were autistically screeching about her out-of-wedlock pregnancies and births, rightfully, but how about the millions of black kids who never had a daddy? Uh-oh. Little hypocrisy there. Yeah, Bristol Palin's the problem. I'm sure she's going to be a problem for her parents, financially and socially, economically, probably in mental health venue too, because I don't know if she's too bright, but we are worried about Bristol Palin, but not the millions of black kids. So, Old Fart Rants only cares about black lives, like a lot of people do, and I will use this video as a template for responses to other people, so I may be responding to someone else when you read this, and I'll just put it down there. But to these people, black lives only matter when it can be used for political expediency. And I've done a number of articles going through cities. I did 2 sets of articles. The first set, all the cities, check the links underneath, I've already done these videos, all the cities had a black majority or plurality. And they all had homicide rates way above the national average for 2015 to 2017. I'll do this again in about a year. The second set were still more diverse than America on average. And they had homicide rates more than, all of them were about at least 2.5 times the national average from 2015 to 2017. So I went through all these cities, and I didn't go back decades and decades and decades, at least not for who represented them at the state level, the state representatives and state senators. But I do have links to all the city councils. And if you look at these city councils, a lot of them are very diverse. There's black people running these towns, and they're still a train wreck. Progressive black people. And many of them, I didn't go through the police chiefs. I'm sure a lot of the police chiefs are black. But keep in mind, the homicide rate for the U.S. from 2015 to 2017 was 5.2 per 100,000. 5.2. Baltimore had a homicide rate from 2015 to 2017 of 54.3. I found out through my research, Baltimore hasn't had a Republican city councilman, and that's another thing. Most city council races are nonpartisan, although when you start looking up some of these people in bigger cities, you can see they're Democrats, even though they don't run as Democrats. But Baltimore's aren't. Baltimore, if I remember correctly, has not elected a Republican city councilman since the 60s. Yet, that city is deteriorating. It is going right down the toilet. Its school system is a train wreck. And they elect Democrats. Elijah Cummings, you remember, was from Baltimore. Another idiot dying in office, serving the public for decades. His city was a train wreck the whole time. Now, Maryland state Senate districts, number 40, number 41, and 43 through 46, through the last 10 years, or last 8 years, I went to Ballotpedia for a lot of this information, all big Democrat wins. And many times they're, excuse me, many times they don't even have a challenger. Maryland House of Delegates, that was District 40, 41, 43, 44A, 45, and 46, all landslide victories for the Democrats across the board. Baltimore is run by Democrats, high homicide rate. Detroit had a high homicide rate, this is 2015 to 2017, of 42.7. Rashida Tlaib, you remember, she's a rock star in Congress now. She came from a city that's dying. Another thing I need to mention, most of these cities have lost a ton of population. You remember the people in Seattle recently, Black Lives Matter idiots, were screeching and hollering, these districts, there used to be black people living here. Well, guess what? In Detroit, it used to be about 80-90% white. But they're not coming back. And you know why? Because a dangerous place to go, as Walter E. Williams says, is a dangerous place to send your money. No white people and no self-sufficient black people are coming back to Detroit. Yet Rashida Tlaib is a rock star in Congress, and she was elected from a city that has been dying slowly for 60 years. Michigan State Senate District number 3, and also districts, all districts 1 through 5 are in the Detroit area, and they all vote Democrat. They all send Democrats to the State House. House of Representatives for Michigan, districts 1 through 11 are all in the Detroit area, and they all vote. They all send Democrats. Democrats usually win by blowout margins. Again, Rashida Tlaib was a member of that distinguished body for a while, and now she's a house in that U.S. House of Representatives. This city is dying. We should not listen to people in cities where people are leaving. Detroit has a sky-high homicide rate. I'm just going to pound this into people's heads. Detroit, 42.7 homicides per 100,000. Cleveland, 27.6 homicides per 100,000. Ohio House of Representatives District 10 and 11 through 15 were all in the Cleveland area, encompass part of Cleveland. Now, again, I'll mention this later. Sometimes, if the Republicans control a state, they will gerrymander. This happens. I've looked through tons of congressional districts and House districts, and it is amazing the goofy shapes that these have. I know goofy is ambiguous, but this happened in Louisiana where the Republicans control the state. There, they draw the lines, and they've tried to blunt Baton Rouge's influence. And again, as I also mentioned in the article, as these cities become smaller, as people leave, they lose their power to send more crazy people to the State House. And that's happening with Cleveland. But districts 10 through 15 in the House of Representatives for Cleveland, all Democrats, all blowout wins, usually by huge margins. Some of them are uncontested. And Ohio State Senate Districts 21 and 23, Democrats. Democrats win there from 2010 on. And again, I got all this from Ballotpedia. I didn't go back any further, but I've got links to the city council. You can look at some of these city council members. They're crazy. And the Cleveland mayor, Frank Jackson, he's been the mayor there forever. He's a Democrat, not a Republican. And he wins there by huge margins every time. I've also got links to the roster of representatives so you can look this up. Jackson, Mississippi. This is a state, Republican state, Mississippi. It is now. It wasn't always. In fact, for decades and decades, Democrats controlled the state house down there, from Reconstruction until Obamacare. But Jackson, Mississippi is a Democrat city in a Republican state. Their homicide rate from 2015 to 2017 was 33.74. Mississippi, House of Representatives Districts 67 and 68 through 72. Some were hard to determine, had to find a district office. Again, some states do this a lot better, where it's easier to find, hey, does this person's district come inside the city lines of whatever city? So I had to find a district office, but all those districts were Democrat. Again, Mississippi House of Representatives Districts 67 through 72, all are Democrat wins across the board for this decade. The city council is nonpartisan, but the members all check the boxes on progressive demands for diversity. Jackson has a long string of Democrat mayors as well. As far as the state senate, districts 26 through 29, all Democrat wins. Some were not contested. Memphis, Tennessee, another case of a highly Democrat city, large and deteriorating, people are leaving, inside a city that is Republican. Very Republican. Oh, the Memphis City Council expressed their condolences to George Floyd. They didn't forget his name like Nancy Pelosi and Claire McCaskill did, but not to the 39,144 blacks murdered by other blacks from 2004 to 2018. Say their names too? I'll have a video on that. Or do they not matter because lack of political expediency? Memphis's demographics and high homicide rate indicate to me that there's likely a lot of black-on-black homicide there, and they would be so busy expressing condolences to those families that they would not have time to virtue signal for George Floyd. But I digress. Memphis's mayoral elections are nonpartisan, but their mayor induced Bloomberg in the Democrat primary and has now endorsed Joe Biden. I went to Memphis once when I used to travel over the South, and I was not impressed. Tennessee House of Representatives, District 93. See also Districts 83 through 88, 90, 91. 98. One Republican amongst those at this time, and in many races the Democrat was unopposed. I saw nothing but blowout wins. And then Tennessee State Senate Districts 29, 30, and 33, all blowout wins for the party of free stuff. Birmingham, Alabama, another highly Democrat city in a Republican state. Birmingham, Alabama, homicide rate of 34 per 100,000. City council and mayor are nonpartisan, but since the current mayor, Randall L. Woodfin, was Hillary Clinton's state director for her campaign in 2016, that answers that question. Essentially, Birmingham has a jungle primary full of Democrats, and the top two Democrats, if nobody gets 50%, have a runoff to decide which Democrat will promise pie in the sky fixes that will be completely ineffective 4 years later. The previous mayor, William Bell, ran as a Democrat for a county commission post back in 2008. What Birmingham needs is culture change, where fathers aren't absent from the lives of so many of their children. Until that happens, Birmingham will be a place most people will leave if they have the means to do so. And again, I've gone through a lot of data from the NCES indicating that there, in a lot of these cities, there's a high percentage of single-parent households, a high percentage of people, working age folks, out of the labor force completely. Lots of people on food stamps. It's a train wreck. Alabama State Senate Districts 15 and 18. 15 is a GOP stronghold. 18 is a Democrat stronghold. So that might be the gerrymandering there. Both parties do this, where they've tried to blunt some of Birmingham's influence in the state house. House of Representatives District 43. See also Districts 46, 48, 52, 54, 57, 58, 59, 60. 3 Republicans and 6 Democrats all win their races rather easily. So Birmingham is a Democrat city. You can check my work too. I went through all this in painstaking detail. New Orleans / Orleans Parish, another city, another Democrat city in a Republican state. Let's see not completely sure if House District 105 hits the outskirts of New Orleans or not. I believe it does. I counted it as if it did. This one flipped from GOP to Democrat. Senate districts 3, 4, 5, and 7, all occupied by Democrats, and all win rather easily. For the House of Representatives, districts 93, as I mentioned, 91, 97, 98, 99, 100, 102, 105, all are staunch Democrat except for the one. Voters in Orleans Parish / New Orleans sent a lot of Democrats to Baton Rouge. New Orleans proper and its sprawling metro area are heavily Democrat. Same story, different city, sky-high homicide rate. New Orleans has been run right into the ground by Democrats for decades. Lots of fatherless children, plenty of folks with kids not working, and plenty of homicide. When will they wake up? I don't think they're going to wake up. Ray Nagin, of course, and Mitch Landrieu, both big Democrats, were mayors there for a long time. New Orleans has a lot of Democrats winning mayoral elections down there. East St. Louis, Illinois. Here's a heavily Democrat city in a state that is, well, outside of this county. I think it's St. Clair County and Cook County. Illinois is pretty sane, but Chicago's big enough, Cook County's big enough to usually win it for Democrats there. East St. Louis, homicide rate 94.4, over 10 times the national rate. Check the city council. They don't even put pictures up for these clowns, but they had a fat black lady as a mayor, and she got thrown out big time to it's a big old black guy now. Now this black guy that's the current mayor, James Ingram, he looks like he could throw down with some people, so I'm not sure anybody would want to test him. But I wish him well in trying to fix it there, but I'm not optimistic. It's so dangerous in East St. Louis. People are leaving there for Afghanistan. Can we get some racial equality in East St. Louis? What's with all these old black folks getting into the mayor's office and city council there? Despite all those African Americans running the city, there's still plenty of black on black homicide. Maybe we should wreck businesses across the country because of that. The previous mayor, this is the lady who was defeated by James Ingram, the guy who looks like he could throw down with some people. Previous mayor took a seat on the city council vacated by her father. Ascended to the mayor's office with a high homicide rate, was booted out and replaced, homicide rate intact. Culture changes are needed in East St. Louis, and you guessed it, the state representative and state senator districts for East St. Louis, because that city has lost a lot of population since 1960. Those districts are represented by Democrats. St. Louis City, Missouri. This city, along with its metro area, is probably the most dangerous area in the U.S. Some cities are more dangerous, some metro areas are more dangerous, but no area has a city and metro area more dangerous. It is bad. Ferguson, as you remember, is in St. Louis's metro area, and it's a dump as well. St. Louis City, not county, St. Louis City had a homicide rate of 56.1 per 100,000. Fun fact, St. Louis has fewer than 11,000 residents per city councilman/alderman. The city's population has fallen dramatically since the 60s. Folks cannot wait to get out. If the trend continues, each alderman will have a few residents on a street corner they can meet with on a daily basis and blame everyone else for their problems. St. Louis City has been on a gargantuan slide for decades. Will it ever change? Will the people wake up? And you guessed it, the 2 state senators, and Missouri was a place that did their, when I looked up representatives and see what cities they actually represented, Missouri did a great job. They made it really easy for me. The 2 state senators and all 12 state representatives in districts that are part of St. Louis City are from the Democrat Party. Surprised? I'm sorry, I think I hit the mic there. Atlanta, Georgia, another highly Democrat city in a Republican state. You remember Stacey Abrams? The only reason she had a chance in that election, she had people in Atlanta voting for her in droves, but it wasn't enough. Atlanta has a homicide rate of 19.97 per 100,000. Kasim Reed has been a mayor there. The current mayor is a nutcase. It's a trade. From what I saw, every single representative and state senator, again, I have all the links for this, representing Atlanta were Democrats. Some of these candidates ran unopposed, and if they didn't, they won by landslide margins. About a decade ago, there were some Republicans from the Atlanta delegation, but not anymore. It's been overwhelmingly Democrat for some time. Bibb County, Georgia, homicide rate of 16.98. The Macon area is Democrat, but this county tilts toward Democrats a lot less than Atlanta. Bibb County has a homicide problem, but it is relatively peaceful compared to Atlanta and Fulton County. Georgia State Senate Districts 26 and 18 are part of Bibb County. District 18 is solid Democrat. District 26 is solid Democrat. District 18 belongs to the GOP. Georgia House of Representatives, Districts 141, 142, and 143. 141 is solid GOP. The other 2 are solid Democrat. So Bibb County is another place that leans Democrat. Again, look at all these city councils and county commissions. A lot of them are very diverse. That's what they want. Dougherty County, Georgia. This is Albany, Georgia. From what I see, the 2 state representative districts, 153 and 154, and 1 state senator, District 12 for Albany and Dougherty County, are Democrats and have been for some time. Montgomery, Alabama, homicide rate of 16.83. All the state representatives and senators encompassing Montgomery are Democrats. The current Montgomery mayor, Stephen Reed, was a delegate for Hillary Clinton at the 2016 DNC. Baton Rouge / East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana. State Senate Districts 14, 15, and 16. One is represented by the GOP. The other 2 are solid Democrat. They have a homicide rate of 28.45. Louisiana House of Representatives, Districts 61, 63, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, and 70. 5 of those 8 districts are GOP, 3 are Democrat. And you look at the districts there, you can see how it's been gerrymandered a little bit. So they've lost, of course, East Baton Rouge has lost some of their pull. Sharon Westbroom was a mayor there, Kip Holden. Yes, Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish has a high homicide rate, has had for some time, and is dominated by, you guessed it, Democrats. So you see who they're putting in the mayor's office. That's a Democrat city. Flint, Michigan, another city that's dying a slow death, homicide rate of 16.07. The current mayor, Sheldon Neely, was the Democrat representative in District 34 until his wife, yes, His wife took the seat. The Dumbs regularly win that seat by landslide margins. Soon, Flint will be a shining city on a hill. Mr. Neely is married with children, says he is blessed, and works as a volunteer in a group founded by his father. Those are the recipes for success, but sadly, most residents of Flint are not following those precepts, but rejecting them. As Walter E. Williams said long ago, a dangerous place to go is also a dangerous place to send your money, and that is likely why Flint is dying a slow death. Most entrepreneurs do not want to start a business there because it's not safe. I'd wager if everyone followed Mr. Neely's example, stay off drugs, get married, finish your education, get a good job, don't have a boatload of kids, the city of Flint would be better off. There are two districts, House of Representatives District 34 and State Senate District 27. Guess what? They vote Democrat. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Homicide rate of 18.246. Again, the U.S. homicide rate during that time frame was 5.2. Michael Nutter was a mayor there for a long time, as was Ed Rendell. Philly being a... I've got a little story. I'm not going to read that off, but a lot of corruption there. A lot of progressives fighting with progressives over money not being spent wisely, money missing. And Philly began as another large American city that is very diverse and began a downward slide in the 60s. It's getting to the point where it's going to be minority dominated. I don't remember exactly what the demographics were of Philly, but since the 60s, a lot of white people have left, and any black person who's self-sufficient and can leave probably left as well, especially if they don't vote for Hillary Clinton. Philly has a long history of Democrat mayors, and they sent to Harrisburg are, you guessed it, Democrats. They're losing some of that power they have in Harrisburg due to people leaving. Senate districts 1 through 5, 7 and 8 encompass the consolidated Philly County city area. In the House, districts 170, 172 through 175, 177, 179 through 182, 184 through 186, 188, 190 through 192, 194 and 195, 197, 198, 200 through 203. I think I saw one member of the GOP in that entire list. So in the entire Philly County / city area, all those House and Senate districts, one Republican. And look at their city council, look at their mayors. This is a Democrat city, and it's going down the toilet. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. This was an interesting one. Homicide rate 32.675. It's a war zone. Arkansas House of Representatives District 16 is solid Dem. House of Representatives District 17 is also solid Dem. And the State Senate District that encompasses Pine Bluff, Arkansas State Senate District 25, is solid Democrat. And then I urge you, I'm not going to read this, I'll read the mayor's bio. This lady grew up poor. Her parents were dirt poor, but they had a good work ethic. They got out from under that. They survived. She got educated. I listened to one of her speeches, and it was going pretty good until she started talking about spending money for pools and community centers and all that, rather than saying, hey, maybe if the nuclear family was more prevalent here, we would survive. We would do better. But she sounds like she's got her heart in the right place, but I don't think it's going to work. But some old black lady who grew up really poor, and I don't think sitting around being the victim is why she succeeded. Why she wanted to become mayor, I suppose she's going to try to fix a city that she's lived in for a long time. I wish her the best, but that's a daunting task. I already went over, yeah, the two House districts and one Senate district there are Democrat. Rochester, New York. Again, read that mayor's bio and listen to her speech from Pine Bluff. Rochester, New York, homicide rate 16.75. State Senate districts 55, 54, 56, and 61. Surprisingly, the GOP is in control of all four, but 55 flipped to the GOP recently and is competitive. There are State Assembly District 137, also districts 134, 136, 138. One is solid GOP, and the other three are solid Democrat. Of course, as you know, House districts are smaller, so that gets closer, state House districts to closer to what people prefer at the local level. So of those, 3 of the 4 are Democrat. But I was surprised to see the state Senate districts were Republican there. The crazy mayor of Rochester voted for Hillary Clinton. So that tells us how out in left field she is. Rochester's seeing a lot of folks say it's been fun. I have a better chance of making it somewhere else. Have a nice day. But look at their city council too. Sometimes it's hard to determine. I didn't look through all these city council members to decide to find out if any of them are really crazy or not. But there's plenty of diversity on the Rochester City Council. Buffalo, New York, homicide rate 16.15. There are two Senate districts that encompass Buffalo. One is Republican, one is Democrat. The two Assembly districts, both are solid Democrat. Buffalo's longtime mayor, Byron Brown, endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016 over Bernie. So he's still crazy. Byron Brown has been the mayor of a city that has been dying a slow death for 60 years. People are leaving. Crime is a huge problem. Fatherless children are a problem, and poverty is a problem. No amount of taxpayer dollars out of state will fix it. Folks, this is Buffalo, New York. Last one out. Shut off the lights. Go look at their city council, too. Greensboro, North Carolina. Greensboro, North Carolina, homicide rate of 12.52. Look up Nancy B. Vaughn's bio. I dare ya. Look at the city council. I dare ya. Their state senate district, 28, and House District 61, heavily Democrat. The House District was GOP until recently. Again, that's House District 16 or House District 61. North Carolina, excuse me, I almost said New York. North Carolina has been embroiled in a redistricting kerfuffle for some time, so I'm not sure how much of a part that played in it, but apparently some of it as it went from the GOP winning easily to a complete 180. Their municipal elections are nonpartisan, but their current mayor endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. Reading the campaign websites of some of these council candidates makes me shake my head. They're robotic. Who doesn't want good infrastructure? And bike paths for fat folks to walk on and bike on. Yay! Our problems are solved. However, I would rather this be a local issue than a federal issue, as Leviathan often gets involved in that as well. And I'm sure bike paths in Greensboro are much appreciated by folks who live in Boise and vice versa. Durham, North Carolina. Homicide rate of 12.05 per 100,000. House of Representatives District 31, heavily Democrat. State Senate District in North Carolina, District 20, heavily Democrat. And then Steve Schewel was the mayor there. Look him up. Durham voters regularly send Democrats to Raleigh every legislative session, and the Durham mayor is a Democrat. Fayetteville, North Carolina. Homicide rate of 12. State Senate District 19. This district was GOP but flipped in 2018 in a close contest. Just House of Representatives District 44. Easy Democrat wins. Now their mayor, Mitch Colvin, I've got a little info on him. You'll find Mitch among other black polls who have endorsed war on drugs, Joe Biden. The same Biden who has a history of head-scratching racist statements. I think Mitch just looks for the D next to the name, and history doesn't matter. Biden is plastic. He has no views, and he is a Muppet. Mitch Colvin also has no problem saying having Black Lives Matter painted on a public square with taxpayer dollars, but why not all lives matter, or better yet, Black fathers matter, as nearly half of all the children in Cumberland County live in single-parent households, and Fayetteville has a homicide rate well over 2 times the national rate. 1/5 of all the parents of children in public school are not even in the labor force. Almost 1/3 of the families are on food stamps, but paint Black Lives Matter on every street corner, tear down every statue that you do not like, even if they fought against the Confederacy, have a hissy fit in the public square, rename every team you do not like, address all microaggressions, and that will put 0 fathers in fatherless homes. Sounds like Mitch Colvin is doing a fine job of addressing everything but why so many families in Fayetteville are poor. Probably fatherless homes and drugs, but screech Black Lives Matter. That'll teach those absentee fathers some lessons. And Mitch Colvin was, it was another guy, excuse me. There's another mayor I got to read. This wasn't the one I was thinking of, but we'll get to that. A mayor in Virginia. if I remember right. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, homicide rate 22.67. Outside of Milwaukee, you're really safe in Wisconsin most of the time. But Milwaukee is not doing well. Homicide rate 22.67 per 100,000. By my count, there are 10. Count them, 10 House districts in Milwaukee proper, and they are all represented by the Democrats. Not going to post all those links, but you're welcome to check my work. Milwaukee, another city with a high homicide rate run by Democrats totally and completely. They send a lot of Democrats to Madison each election. Mayor Tom Barrett needs no introduction. He's been in power there forever and failed several times to become Wisconsin's governor. Despite Barrett's vaunted leadership, Milwaukee's homicide rate remains in the stratosphere. Outside that city, Wisconsin is a very safe place to live. Milwaukee's population has been slowly declining for 40 years. People want out. So, and then there's 4 state Senate districts, 3, 4, 6, and 7 that encompass Milwaukee. All of them easily won by Democrats. Dayton, Ohio, homicide rate of 22. Another city in Ohio that's dying. The mayor of Dayton, Nan Whaley, has been a delegate to the Democrat National Convention 4 times. I wonder if she was involved in this one. She focuses on women and children. Yay. Who doesn't? I guess many of the parents aren't, so the mayor is going to let the state be their mother. Next, she'll tell us she wants clean water, good schools, and potholes filled. Not sure if she thinks Dayton can take care of that or Leviathan will be needed. Then she'll probably call out all the fragmented families in Dayton as they're one of the reasons the city is having issues with homicide. Or she can blame Jeff Bezos because he's white and has billions. Yeah, it's Jeff Bezos' fault there's so much homicide in Dayton. House of Representatives District 39 in Ohio, Democrat occupied, but the district covers most of Dayton. And in House District 40 is GOP occupied. And then as Dayton has lost enough people that they're losing their poll, the state Senate districts 5 and 6, which split Dayton up pretty good, both of those are occupied by the GOP. Dayton is crazy, but like a lot of Democrats dominate cities, is decaying and shrinking. Dayton has seen a lot of folks say, I think I'll take my business elsewhere since 1970, and has lost a lot of its pull in Columbus. Ergo, it is not big enough to control who represents Montgomery County in the legislature as it would have been back in the 60s to the 80s. I'll bet if they tear down a bunch of statues and then Dayton's sky-high homicide rate will fall. Absentee fathers will appear out of nowhere and the drug addicts will start businesses. Yeah. Here's a litany of cities from Virginia. I remember that fat guy, Stan Cedar, the big fat guy from New York who his wife kicked him to the curb because he went crazy after Trump won. He was screeching about Virginia turning blue, even though red was their color back in the 80s and most of the 90s. Virginia's turning blue. Well, here's why Virginia's turning blue. Because we got a litany of cities from Virginia. And I'm not going to read all these off. I mean, not in detail. Danville, Virginia, homicide rate 27.98. Danville, Virginia, homicide rate 27.98. House of Delegates, District 14, Senate District 20, and Senate District 15. 2 Senate districts run through Danville, but it is too small, and thus both districts have been GOP for some time. Same story for the lone House district that Danville resides in because it's really small. Danville Mayor Alonzo Jones forgave Virginia Governor Ralph Northam for his blackface scandal. I wonder if he'll forgive Joe Biden for all his racial gaffes. Something tells me that if the party roles were reversed, he would not be so forgiving unless he was promised some help from der Governor, and that usually means some tax dollars from outside the community. Danville is plagued with homicide, fatherless children in single-parent households, as well as a lot of working-age folks getting paid not to work. No surprise that folks have been leaving Danville. Portsmouth, Virginia, homicide rate 21.67. Their 2 House districts are both solid Democrat, and of the 2 Senate districts, one is solid Dem, one is solid GOP. Hampton, Virginia. Again, I've got all the, you can look up the demographics. I'll leave a link, a Facebook post I put up, and if you just read these in order, and it's going to take a while. This is not something you cover in 5 minutes. I remember old Fart Rants one time was so upset at me. He was screeching, I need a summary of that long thing you sent me that refutes everything I said in detail. Well, here's a summary, dumbass. The most violent cities in America are diverse. Lots of food stamps, lots of fatherless households, lots of working age folks not working, lots of violence, lots of homicide, and they vote Democrat. There's your summary, dumbass. Portsmouth, Virginia, homicide rate 21.67. Already covered that one. Hampton, Virginia, homicide rate of 14.51. The mayor, Donnie Tuck, worked with Black Lives Matter protesters to shut down a street on Sunday night, this is a while back, to protest police brutality, but not the sky-high homicide rate in Hampton. I wonder if they would launch protests and shut down streets for all the blacks murdering other blacks in cities like Hampton, Chicago, Baltimore, Detroit. How about all the black children slaughtered in Planned Parenthood abortion clinics in New York City? How about protesting all the absentee fathers in Hampton right in their own backyard? Virginia State Senate District 1 is solid Democrat. District 2 is also solid Democrat. District 3 is solid GOP. House of Delegates, District 92 is solid Democrat. District 91 has flipped from the GOP to the Democrats recently. Newport News, Virginia, homicide rate 14.71. 2 state Senate districts go through there. Both are solid Democrat. House of Delegates, Districts 93 and 94. 93 is solid Democrat. The latter, District 94, flipped to the Democrats recently, and District 95 is solid Democrat. Petersburg, Virginia, homicide rate of 40.58. Holy moly. The 1 state Senate district and the 1 House of Delegates district encompassing Petersburg, both are solid Democrats. Solid Democrat districts. Norfolk, Virginia, homicide rate of 14.94. State Senate District 6, 5, and 7 encompass Norfolk. 6 and 5 are solid Democrat. District 7 is GOP, but is competitive. House of Delegates District 79. See also Districts 100, 89, 90, and 83. 83 flipped to the Dumbs, but is competitive. 90 is solid Democrat. 89 is solid Democrat. 100 flipped to the GOP and is competitive. 79 is solid Democrat. Norfolk's mayor is a Democrat and was unopposed in the last election. The previous mayor served for over 20 years in that city, and this nutcase endorsed Hillary Clinton. So that homicide-laden dung heap is run by Democrats. Roanoke, Virginia, homicide rate of 14.36. State Senate District 21 is solid Democrat. House of Delegates District 11 and 17. 11 is solid Democrat. 17 is solid GOP. Go look at the city council. Richmond, Virginia, homicide rate of 25.35. Richmond's current mayor, LeVar Stoney, is a Democrat and a loon. Keep in mind, his city has had a homicide rate that is almost 5 times the national average. During Black Lives Matter protests, they were not protesting the 39,144 blacks murdered by other blacks from 2004 to 2018. During those protests, a riot broke out and Stoney was blaming it on white nationalists and white supremacists that induced the normally stoic citizens of Richmond, yuck, 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 to go bonkers, set fires, and wreck the place. It's like OJ out looking for the real killers. He's looking for the real white supremacists that are wrecking his town. It appears that Mayor Stoney is lying, trying to cover up the source of the violence, the BLM protests. The source of the violence were the BLM protests and the protesters themselves. And again, his city has a stratospheric homicide rate. I wish LeVar Stoney good luck in his quest to uncover the truth about who really started that riot. What a doofus. Virginia State Senate District 9. See also Districts 10 and 16. 16 and 9 are solid Dem. 10 flipped to the Democrats in 2019 and is competitive. House of Delegates District 69. See also District 68, 70, and 71. 68 flipped to the Dumbs and is competitive. Districts 69 through 71 are solid Democrat. Another uber Democrat city with a high homicide rate, plenty of single-parent households, and plenty of working-age folks not in the labor force, sending a lot of Democrats to the State House each election year. Surprised? I am not. District of Columbia, homicide rate of 20.17. I don't even need to go over that one. Washington, D.C., homicide rate almost 4 times the national average, 20.17. 17. Compton, California. Straight out of Compton, yo. Homicide rate of 23.5. It's California State Senate District 35. See also District 33. Both are so Democrat that the general election has two Democrats running against each other after a blanket or jungle primary. And State Assembly District 64 is also uber Democrat. And I've got some comments about they had a solar initiative in Compton. So if they have an initiative to put fathers in the homes, will that work? I'm just wondering. That's what Compton's population has barely budged for over 30 years. People do not want to live there. Look at the demographics. Look at the city council. Will you just look at it? North Little Rock, Arkansas. State Senate District 30 is heavy Democrat. House of Representatives District 37 is also heavy Democrat. And look at, I made a note that I think their city council needs more diversity. Little Rock, Arkansas, homicide rate 21.68. There are 3 Senate districts running through there are all Democrat. And the 4 House districts, all easy Democrat wins. Little Rock's mayor, Frank Scott Jr., served in the Mike Bibb administration. I wonder if he tells, since he's a youth pastor and associate pastor, I wonder if he tells young black men in Little Rock that so many of them are getting slaughtered in abortion clinics across America. I wonder how, as a youth pastor, that sits with him being a member of the party of abortion. Maybe it bothers him and he will have a road to Damascus conversion someday. Maybe he ignores it and brushes it aside, or perhaps he's so tainted at this point, he's just going through the motions and forgot what Jesus Christ said. So there's another Democrats. Wilmington, Delaware. This is Joe Biden's backyard. Homicide rate of 40.56. 3 state Senate districts going through Wilmington. All Democrat wins for the last decade. And all the mentioned for the House Representative districts that go through, all were blowout wins for the party of redistribution and no personal responsibility, save District 12, which recently flipped to the Democrats. Wilmington's mayoral elections are partisan, and they usually elect Democrats in a city that is laden with homicide. This city is struggling mightily with violence and will probably blame everyone but the fatherless psychopaths and the culture that causes it. Maybe they need more money from Washington, just rehabilitate downtown. I can't even talk. Put up a cultural center, and by golly, Wilmington will be a prime destination. Is that city council diverse enough? Is it working? Maybe Wilmington's homicide issues are caused by those dang libertarians in Kent County. Newark, New Jersey. Homicide rate of 33.46. The 2 state Senate districts are both solid Democrat, as are the 2 assembly districts running through there. Look at their city council. I've got a link for that. Roz J. Baraka, their current mayor. He's a real piece of work. And Cory Booker was a mayor there for a while. Now he's playing the role of Minnie Mouse in the Senate. Here's a note. Their current mayor, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Roz J. Baraka, has figured out that white supremacist groups are the cause of all ills in Newark. But when was the last time he called out the folks of Newark for spawning children they have no intention of taking care of? Maybe the black children aborted at Planned Parenthood, Roz? What about all the black children that are failing in Newark's vaunted public schools? Screeching about Black Lives Matter won't put fathers in the homes, nor will it get kids off drugs. Keep blaming Whitey for the problem in a state that leans Democrat heavily, in a diverse area that is full frontal lobotomy Democrat. Roll some more paint down. That'll teach him. Newark's homicide rate hovers at about 6 times the national rate. Murals are more important than murders. Prior to Booker becoming mayor, Sharp James, who was also a state senator affiliated with the Democrats at the same time, was mayor there for what seemed like an eternity. He must have been copying from the Daily Chicago Handbook of Politics, but it wasn't to be as Miss Booker ended his reign. Booker had a close election with him 4 years prior, and it appears James decided to quit while he was ahead. Isn't it odd to think that this diverse community of activists and do-gooders somehow can't make the fine citizens of Newark behave? They need some more slogans. Elect folks like this enough, and your entire country can be like Newark. No thanks. Do we want the entire U.S. to be like Newark? No. And the thing is, New Jersey's pretty safe except for these two areas. And here's the second one, Camden, New Jersey. Homicide rate 45.32. Dana Red is the current mayor. Or excuse me, the previous mayor, and Francisco Frank Moran is their current mayor. And both their Senate and General Assembly districts that go through Camden, 45.32 homicide rate, are both Democrats. Democrat wins easily. They've been talking about stopping the gunshots in Camden for about a quarter century now. In Camden, do Black Lives Matter when it's black on black in the hood? Progressives often talk of diversity. Look at the diversity on the city council in Camden and in the mayor's office. Why has little changed? Again, this is a city in a state run by Democrats most of the time. When was the last time New Jersey gave its electoral votes to the Republican presidential nominee? Little quiz question for you there. Chicago, Illinois. Do I even need to go over this one? Not really, but they have a homicide rate of 23.36 for those 3 years. And all their state Senate districts, all Democrat wins. And in the House, there's a bunch of these. I'm not going to read them all off. All the districts except one are easy Democrat wins. Most of the time they ran opposed. There was one safe GOP House district in the Chicago area. And of course, the Chicago City Council even has a socialist caucus now. These people are just open about the fact that if you're successful, they're going to take all your money and give it to fatherless children and drug addicts. Chicago is a city that has, again, also lost a lot of population since 1960. It's losing its pull in the legislature. It's getting worse. They've had a homicide problem for a long time. Chicago, come for the food, stay because you got shot. And I've got links to stuff I did on Chicago. Their city spending has absolutely exploded over the last 40 years. They spend a lot of money on multiculturalism. It's not working. Yeah, I mentioned the Socialist Caucus. Basically a list of members who were saying this publicly because I'd wager 90% of the council are redistributionists who would take every dime from every successful entrepreneur and don't think it's limited to deep-pocketed folks like Bezos, Gates, Bernie Marcus, Peter Thiel, or Sheldon Adelson. They would come after my multi-million-dollar boss too if they could. Gary, Indiana, homicide rate of 62.72, another city that's dying. And when the Indiana state page where I was trying to look at the roster of representatives was having all kinds of issues. Gary, Indiana voters sent a lot of Democrats, but a lot less today than they did 50 years ago as the city is hemorrhaging population. Gary, Indiana voters sent a lot of Democrats to Indianapolis each election. And in the House of Representatives, there were 3 districts that encompassed Gary. All were Democrat. And State Senate District 2 and District 3. Indiana legislator bios, and some states are much better than others, list the areas they serve definitively. So it is, do not list the areas they serve definitively, so it is difficult to assess whether District 2 goes inside Gary's city limits or not. Just in case, I listed both of them. That's Senate District 2 and 3, and they're both solid Democrat. Gary, Indiana is a city that's been dying slowly for decades. And the previous mayor of Gary, Indiana, has now become the CEO for the Chicago Urban League. So that is the entire list there. Those are all those cities I went over in those 2 articles I did a long time ago. And I just decided to see at the local level, specifically mayors and state representatives and state senators, who these people elect. And it's all Democrat. They're all diverse. They all have high homicide rates. Democrats either really run the show big time there. Sometimes there's a little flux. And like I said, that's usually because pertaining to state senators and state house members, state representatives, is the city's lost enough population that the city can be, through redistricting, the city loses its power and can't elect people. For example, like Dayton, Ohio. At one time, Dayton, Ohio had enough voters that they would send a couple representatives, and they ran Montgomery County, and anybody from the state representing that county would be a Democrat. Well, it's not happening anymore. So I'm wondering if Chicago continues hemorrhaging population, and I think it's going to get worse. From the 60s, the only time it ever stopped for a while was the 1990s, where they gained population. But in 25 years, Chicago may not run the state of Illinois. So again, it's a lot of, I don't think I need to say anything more. It's personal responsibility. Yeah, there's some bad cops out there, but these cities have been going downhill, being run to the ground by Democrats for a very long time. And suddenly discovering something's wrong with George Floyd, who was not a gentle giant. These people are ignoring the big problems. There's a lot of black on black homicide. A lot of these cities where it's happening are run by Democrats. They're losing population, a lot of fatherless children, a lot of drug addicts. They don't want personal responsibility. They want to make it all about George Floyd, when there's been bigger problems festering for a long time. So the next time a Democrat like old Fart Rants or any other virtue signaling moron who probably didn't finish high school starts running their mouth about Black Lives Matter, show them this and ask them which Black Lives Matter. Have a nice day, and don't thank me now for the sobering information. Again, all the links will be underneath in the video description. Have a nice day.